room where there's now open windows. May I request that the heaters please be switched off, just for the safety? It's been said that heaters should be not on.
Standing rules and orders. Accordingly, 20 minutes will be allocated for the whole duration of statements by members of the Executive Council to raise matters pertaining to their portfolios which need to be brought to the attention of the legislature. A statement from a member of the Executive Council may not exceed 5 minutes. Following statements by members of the Executive Council, a member or members of each of the parties may comment on a statement by a member of the Executive Council for not more than 3 minutes per party, commencing with the official opposition and followed by other parties in order of their size of their membership in the House. Honorable members, are there statements? Honorable MEC 2.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The National Institute of the Communicable Diseases, the NICD, has confirmed that with their collaborative efforts with the private laboratories and the members of the NGSA, a new COVID-19 variant, that is 5.1.1, B 1.1529 have been recorded in our country, and most of them of the people that have this variant were found in Gauteng. But it does not mean that it is not there in other provinces. It is there, but they've not confirmed whether in our province it is there. The information that we were given yesterday is the fact that, that this variant is highly transmissible, but other facts about it are still being confirmed as to whether it's deadly or whether it affects even those that it causes the severe illness. What we know is that it is highly, at this moment, it is highly transmissible, and only one person can infect as many people as possible. That is the information that we have been given. It is still important to continue driving our vaccination program. And I must say that as Free State, we are doing well on vaccination program, as we, at this point in time, more than 50% of our population have been vaccinated, and we were ranking number 2 in the country with the vaccination coverage. In a month ago, we were ranking number 1. What we are now requesting from the honorable members and even the community is to encourage our youth, especially those between the ages of 18 and 35, to come to vaccination, because we have seen hesitancy, especially amongst the age group between 18 and 35. But as for the 60 years and olds, thank you, because we have surpassed the 70% coverage with the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC Ngangisa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good morning. Honorable members, we move that the House notes that at least 3 officials of the department were attacked by swarm of bees on the 10th of November. Mr. Matobela and the passenger, Mr. Matobela Zulu, were attacked to the engineering facility unit within the Directorate Sustainable Resource Management. The 42-year-old Mr. Pulani Matobela was a control engineer technician at the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development based in Clan. After they were attacked by a swarm of bees, Ms. Matobela subsequently passed away at the incident and was buried a week thereafter. May his soul rest in peace. The two officials, one was admitted at Rose Park Hospital, and the other one was admitted at Busamed Hospital. They were both subsequently released, and we thank their speedy recovery. We also request that the House knows that one of the biggest challenges confronting small-scale farmers is the harvesting period. As a result thereof, we have set aside over 20 million to support farmers with mechanization during the harvesting period. Part of the money will be used to procure, to combine harvest, to assist small-scale farmers. We'll further continue with our Common Age Development Program, wherein we'll support our common age with infrastructure such as water reticulation, fencing, handling, and facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable members. Honorable members, local government elections have come and gone. We meet here today thanking God that all went well. Democracy has again won the day, but a lot of lessons have been learned. The wishes of the people have been met. The cries of the masses have been heard loud and clear. Not all was happy, though, because our people have been crying for so long in other places without us listening, and surely, in one or other, some of us have paid the price. But of course, the lesson never to be forgotten by us as public representatives is that we serve at the mercy of the masses. We are the servant of the people. Let us not forget that. I want to congratulate to all of you in your new responsibilities, and I wish you well in your effort to build the Free State we want. And I also want to say to all mayors, speakers, chief whip, councillors, all of them, good luck. And I pray that this should not just be a slogan, but a war cry in an effort to make the people's lives better than it was before. This should be a war cry that takes us to a battle against poverty, crime, and unemployment. This is a cry that should bring us side by side to fight the pandemic that continues to ravage our communities. And I'm sure we know what is that pandemic. We all have heard of the municipalities that should be assisted by the province. It's going to be very tough. It's going to be hard, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be hard, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be hard, but no one said it's going to be easy anyway. With your cooperation and commitment and a deep sense of self-assessment, we can change the face of our municipalities, if only we can work together and work very, very hard. Let me conclude by saying that taking responsibilities means accepting that you are the cause and the solution of the matter. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Any responses, members? Honorable Jankelson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I heard what the Premier said. The cries of the masses have been heard at the polls. The ANC is down to 50% in the Free State, and I would like to tell the members on that side of the House that you will never, ever go higher than that again. And in 2024, it's going to be interesting to see who will be making the member statement as the Premier of the Free State. Definitely not a member of the ANC, Honourable Speaker. I just want to respond also to Honourable Tsiu's message on the spread of the new variant of the disease. We have seen in the Free State a regime change within the governing party, which is in fact a new variant of the ANC in the Free State. And similar to the other variant, this one is highly transmissible, there's no vaccination, and we would request our people to implement social distancing from them. Thank you.
The last statement was out of order, Honorable Jankasin. Honorable Msimanga.
Thank you very much, when I speak. In response to what the Premier have said, indeed, people have spoken. But it's a problem when a Premier, when some of your MECs, especially in Tatetukwan, will want to control some of those municipalities which people made it very clear that ANC must not be in power there when he wants to control them through Section 139 and other related pieces of legislation. We're making a commitment, it's not a threat here. We'll fight to a bitter end as EFF. Whatever is trying to do, it will never find expression on the ground. Because you can't apply Section 139 as a first instance. These people have not even held even a single ordinary council sitting. You come with a Section 139. Mr. Dukwana is a bitter loser. His heart is sore. What must happen moving forward is that he must take back seat and try to reflect as to what has transpired. Ensure that he comes with better mechanisms to uplift our municipalities out of crisis which find itself in, of which Mr. Dukwana was part of the collective which has brought us here. So he must really, Premier, we must call Mr. Dukwana to order, but because moving forward, he is declaring war against all these municipalities. And those views that he's trying to push will never find expression on the ground. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable members, I see no more hands. And as such, we proceed to Rule 35. Before we proceed to statements by members according to Rule 35, I wish to remind the House on provisions of Rule 35, which stipulates that 20 minutes will be allocated for statements by members, that statements by members shall not exceed 3 minutes per member, and matters to be raised must be of public importance. At the conclusion of statements by members, a member of Executive Council present may be given an opportunity to respond for not more than 2 minutes to any statement directed to that member of the Executive Council. A maximum of 5 members of the Executive Council may be given an opportunity to respond to member statements. Honorable members, are there any statements? Honorable Khachau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, I am starting to believe that irrespective of who the executive head of the Department of COGTA is, whoever that person is truly does not care about the lived realities of people on the ground. They do not care about the lives of residents here in the Free State. I say this because I have over and over and over again stood in this House and alerted this House and the department that the residents of the Kopanong local municipality are practically being given a death card because they do not have access to water, and they do not have an uninterrupted access to water. I wrote to this House numerous of times to say that as much as we know that yes, there is a 50% cut, the reality on the ground for people is not that. There are human beings who wake up and go to bed every day without access to water. Ho na le bo nkgono le bo ntatemoholo who in this dispensation still have to carry the kiribai hore ba tsamaye ba lo fumana metsi. It is wrong. We've asked intervention from the department. The department has clearly looked at us and our cries have fallen on deaf ears. We've even taken a step further to engage the Human Rights Commission, a Human Rights Commission who themselves said that they have engaged the department, they've engaged the Premier, and practically each and every human being there is to engage in this province, and still nobody wants to do something about this. Now, if this isn't a clear communication to members of the public that the ANC government does not care about their lives, I don't know what is. And so again, I request, hopefully, Ntate Dukwana, hopefully you will be able to do something about it. And through you, Speaker, I ask, Sabela, Asiblif, people do not have water. Water is not a luxury, it is a right. Nobody can survive days without water. You not giving access to water and paying Bloem Water is killing the people.
Honorable Nanyana.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning also, honorable speaker. Honorable speaker, thank you very much to allow me this opportunity. Also me briefly to congratulate all political parties that participated in the local government elections, especially in Free State. More congrats to those encountered tremendous achievements, especially my party, Madam Speaker, EFF. Thank you very much.
Honorable Klute.
Thank you, Speaker. Highways from hell, that's what the provincial government has left our communities with. Many of our roads have become death roads. But that's what one would expect from a department that has been unstable for quite some time. MEC upon MEC, HOD upon HOD, projects that remain unfinished, contractors appointed who simply cannot do the job. Currently there are 5, and now here there are actually 7 cases between the department and these contractors. And in the meantime, roads such as the R26 near Frankfurt, the R71 near Oranieville, and the R707 cannot be completed due to the legal processes that needs to be finished first. In the meantime, these roads remain death roads. Communities have to wait until one day these processes are finished. This affects all communities, Speaker. It is commendable that the department is now taking some action against these contractors, but Speaker, this could have been prevented. If government was less interested in appointing political connected contractors under the guise of black economic empowerment and more interested in service delivery, this would not have happened.
Honorable Kleinans.
Thank you, Speaker. On the issue of water, Kestel Town in Maluti-Apofung has had no water for 35 days. And the reason for this is the deliberate closing of the valves so that the water cannot get into Kestel. I have investigated this and it has been confirmed by engineers and senior leaders in the municipality who apparently have no authority over the entity which is doing this. So I'm begging the MEC to please find out what is going on there. People need to be arrested because this is not a mistake. This is a deliberate action of denying the people of Kestel water. I heard this morning that there are now tankers delivering water, but that is not the solution. There's water in the pipes. The water is running into the pump station, but the valve is closed so it cannot get into the town. So please, MEC, if you can urgently intervene and find out and bring to order the people that are doing this. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Msimanga.
Thanks, Speaker, once more. Speaker, we are calling on the Premier to commission a task team that will look into living conditions of black farm dwellers. That task team should constitute of police, labor department, land affairs, and other related departments, so that we look deeper into living conditions of our black people in farm, as farm dwellers. Speaker, on daily basis, our people are getting harassed. They are living in these farming areas as if we are still in 1652. Some of farmers there do horrible things to our people. Our people are being killed. Police take time to respond. They are very clumsy when they deal with case of black people. But when it's a white person who's involved, like a case of Paul Rue, it's given immediate attention. I'm not trying to play on our people's emotions when I'm saying this. I'm being factual because it has happened. There's an incident of Kronstadt where our black brothers were killed. Even today, when you ask the Department of Police how far are they are moving from pillar to post, they can't tell you. There's another case similar to that one between Fijonskroon and Kronstadt where the similar incident has happened. No one is taking, is being accountable. But when you go to the very same farms, our black people, their cattle are getting impounded
Honorable
unfairly.
Simanga, could you please pause? For noting. Okay. Proceed, Honorable Member.
Okay. I'm saying, how ya mo mapolasing? O fumana di kgomo tsa bontatamolao rona le bontata rona ntse di nkuwa ho bona ka mahahapa. O these guys who are hore ba impoundwa mara ntho tse dintse ba llang ka tsona. These things is done with the help of police and our police service. So please, I'm asking for the Premier that she must look into that. We have a commission that will look into living conditions of our farm dwellers. Thank you.
Honorable Meko.
Speaker, the African National Congress has accepted the local government elections outcome. And it has received the message from our people of South Africa. And our people has instructed the ANC that in certain municipalities you are going to have to co-govern or share power with other political organizations. And for us, that message is unequivocal. And the ANC, despite this setback, will always respect a message from the people. Because this is our program to ensure that our country achieves the ideals of the Freedom Charter, that it must be people-based government and people-centered. It has never been about ourselves as a political organization. It should not be about those who have won. It should not be about those who have lost. But at the center of the program of this country must be the people. We fought apartheid to bring about democracy, to realize this ideal of a government based on the will of the people. However, we did, of course, engage other political parties to ensure that we constitute governance in these municipalities where our people have instructed us that we must co-govern. And it's a demonstration that the ANC is not bitter. ANC will never bitter. Our program is to ensure that people are going to be serviced, people are going to be at the center of the program of these municipalities. We are not ashamed to occupy opposition trenches where necessary. And of course, continue to advocate that service delivery has got to be sustained towards our people. It is the nature of a revolutionary movement like the ANC. It's a very big organization. It sustained through the struggle against apartheid. It experienced the lows and, up and downs. And we will experience the same under democracy. But what defines us? It's never about obsession to occupy offices of power. But our obsession is to ensure that the quality of the lives of our people are being improved through service delivery. So yes, we accept the results. We think that these elections were free and fair. Our people have spoken and we respect their message. We wish everybody luck, that they must ensure that the ideals of the Freedom Charter are realized. People must govern. The program of these municipalities where there are coalitions must be informed by the needs and the wants of our people. Thank you very much.
Any response by members of Executive Council? I don't see any hand. Huh? Who? I'm taking responses from members of Executive Council. Honorable Dukwan, MEC. Huh? I did not see him.
Speaker, the issues raised by the two honorable members about water, the supply of water, and a number of issues that they raised are actually issues that all of us should be very concerned about. And we should do everything in our power to ensure that we provide such to our people. And as such, we would follow these matters. I know about Kopanong, and we have been dealing with the situation of Kopanong, but it is bigger than only the provision of water. The municipality, as a going concern, needs to have a total look at in order for us to be able to provide a lasting solution instead of only providing assistance to a municipality like Kopanong. So we need to deal with a number of other issues, the lack of leadership in the municipalities and what is actually happening. So we really appreciate the issues that are raised, and we would certainly was not aware about the situation in Castle. It was not brought to my attention. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I will attend to the matter and revert back to the honorable member. Thank you.
Honorable MEC Bulwana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just want to respond on what Honorable Klute has raised in the House. I think he has also raised personally with me, and then I have assured Honorable Klute that we are attending to the matter. The issue of the R26 road between Raadzaal up to Frankfurt is getting an attention, and then we are working very close with the Treasury to terminate and deviate the issue of R716 between Orangeville passing for share up to that T-junction that leads to Frankfurt and Villiers. So it's also terminated, and then once we have agreed with the Treasury, both the provincial and the national Treasury, we'll make sure that we get contractors that can complete that work. So we are hoping that that response will come as a matter of urgency, and then our wish, it was to start those roads before the end of this year, so that the contractors are on site, start working, closing, and then January we go full swing in ensuring that those roads are repaired, and then we know the fatalities that happen in those roads is our concern also, and then the economic that is affected by those particular roads, because the products moving from the farms to the towns are affected, and a number of things are at stake. But we are not leaving any stone unturned. We are dealing with the matter, and we will deal with the matter once and for all. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Honorable MEC Ngangisa.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to appreciate the question raised by the Honourable Member of Farm Dwellers. We have, as the department, a team of people who are dealing with a relationship between farmers and farm owners and farm dwellers. If there's a specific issue the Honourable Member knows about, can raise it with us so that we attend to it. We have, however, through the stakeholders process and the processes undertaken by the MEC before me, improve relations between the farm owners and the farm dwellers. Naturally, there will be a contradiction between the farm owners and the farm employees. It's the nature of a relationship informed by the business transaction and the supply of workforce towards that business. So that relationship continuously, it would be strenuous because it has to do with the haves and the haves not. So it must be managed properly. So it can't be all over the place. That's why we say if the Honourable Member has got an issue, a specific issue, we'll attend to it so that we improve relations. Our focus in the main is that the relationship must be improved for the purposes of us providing food security as the province and towards national. We need all of us to be working together to build this country. Thank you.
Honorable DeBrain, let me apologize. I did not see your hand. I did not intentionally mean to close you out. I just did not see your hand. And welcome to this house. It's your first time here. And please accept my apologies that I could not give you the opportunity because I did not see your hands. And also welcome to the house, Honorable Mikalakis as well, from the NCOP. Honorable members, we move to interpellations according to Rule 49 to 53. Before we proceed to interpellations, I wish to remind the House that this matter is regulated by Rules 49 to 53 of the Standing Rules and Orders of the House. The interpellation has been circulated to all honorable members, including the relevant member of the Executive Council. As per Rule 51, the following procedure will unfold. 1, the responsible member of the Executive Council shall reply to the interpellation in a speech not exceeding 3 minutes. The interpellant shall respond to the member of the Executive Council's reply in a speech not exceeding 3 minutes. In the remainder of the allotted 15 minutes, the member of the Executive Council and other members may speak for up to 2 minutes at a time, provided that the member of the Executive Council shall be restricted to 2 such additional turns to speak, including an opportunity to reply to the debate. The Secretary shall read the interpellation.
The Honourable Member Klein Hans, as Honourable MEC responsible for Koktan Dadidugane, the following interpellation. In view of letters to some municipalities in the Free State sent by the MEC on 17 November 2021, indicating the intention to amend Section 12 notices and thereby change the type of municipality from a mayoral executive system to a collective system, executive system as provided for in the Structures Amendment Act of 2021. 1, which municipalities in the Free State have received such notices? 2, the MEC states in these letters that considerations of financial viability and affordability are the motivation for changing the type. And in view of a report from the Department of Kokta, tabled in Cabinet in August this year, in which 11 Free State municipalities were classified as dysfunctional, have all these 11 municipalities been identified for this action? If not, why not? 3, in view of the date for comment from municipalities being 15 December 2021, with a further period for public comment, how will this delay or impact on the constituting of these councils? 3, If the council is not yet constituted and has no elected leadership, who in the municipality should provide the comment requested from the executive mayor by the MEC?
Honorable MEC Dukwana.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Speaker. The answer to one is the Dihlabeng, Motlhaka, Ngwathe, Maluta, Phofu, Metsimaholo, Setsoto, and Machabeng. To number two, the state of local government tabled by Minister of COGTA, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, before Cabinet in May 2021, has classified 7 municipalities in our province as dysfunctional, and therefore municipalities' specific support plans were to be developed, focusing on various interventions dealing with financial recovery plans. The support plans have been developed by both COGTA and National Treasury, including Free State Treasury and COGTA, which will be tabled before the newly elected municipal councils for adoption. It is then thereafter that the EXCO will identify various interventions and municipalities. In relation to question 3 of the same question, the council will still be constituted, but the type will be changed in line with section 16 of the Municipal Structures Amendment Act. Members should also note that there's a process. It is not just because one has issued these section 12 notices that you will willy-nilly change. The fact is there is a process that is required to be followed, and only after the process has been completed and looking into what was established in the process of consultation, etc., as required by the law, the MEC will then effect the change if it is necessary to do so. With regard to the last question, we have given up until the 5th of December 2021 with the full knowledge that all council will be constituted by the 23rd of November 2021, except, of course, the district municipalities. So the time is given up until the 5th of December. So it will be the council, those who are elected in those councils, who will be dealing with this matter.
Honorable Clenance.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the MEC. MEC, there was also an internal circular which was distributed. It's to do with transitional matters. I'm sure you must have this in your possession. It's signed off by the Department of COGTA, National Treasury, and SALGA. In this document, it says that obviously in terms of the Structures Amendment Act, it is possible to change the type of a municipality with consultation and, as you rightly say, following the due process, etc. My concern is that in this internal circular, it said that the intention to change the type should have been gazetted by the 30th of September, which would mean that the decision would already have been taken before the election, because that Structures Amendment Act came into effect on the 1st of November, which is election day. So in other words, due to the fact that in the first place the internal circular was only signed off by National Treasury on the 19th of October, so it would be impossible to have gazetted anything before that. But the effect of this is that if it is decided to change the type of a municipality of the number which you have mentioned, you are going to have to do this mid-term. So in other words, because presumably the process which you are referring to will only be completed sometime in next year, after the publication and the public participation and all of that. In other words, these councils are then well established, and most of them, I'm sure, have gone for the mayoral executive system where they have appointed MMCs, etc. So now, how is provincial government and yourself going to enforce this change on a council which might be resisting it? Because some of them will resist it undoubtedly. So would you then go for the option of dissolving council in order for them to be reconstituted? I'm just trying to understand the implications. Should the decision then be taken to actually go for changing the type? How is this going to play out? And then also referring to the interventions which are being speculated about in the media, which is being recommended by the Minister of Finance. That is now a further, basically a potential for conflict in municipalities, which obviously also are going to resist this. Although many of the municipalities, I have been calling for a national intervention.
Thank you, Honourable Kleinhans. Your time has expired. Are there any honourable members who wish to debate on the interpellation? And the MEC concerned is also allowed to debate for up to 2 minutes per member. Honourable members, I don't see any hands, and I wouldn't even say the Honourable MEC must, maybe you should reply to what Honourable Kleinhans has raised.
The most important thing that people should appreciate is we need to provide leadership. The Auditor General has actually called for leadership that is lacking. And this House must actually, when requested to provide such leadership, this House must actually lead in this process. And this is what we must be doing. We must not be emotional about these issues. Our municipalities are dysfunctional, and therefore we need to act. And we cannot be afraid to act because some people are promising to fight to the bitter end. We must do things in the manner that would benefit our people and do things the right way. We cannot sit by and watch municipalities that are supposed to provide services to our people, end up spending money that is not supposed to be spent where they are, where they are spending it. As a result, as I said earlier, that what we need to understand is a process. And whilst waiting for all these as they happened, we needed to start this process. If this process takes us almost 3 months, etc., we must take it. Although it could be very difficult and painful, but it's something that we must do. And in the beginning of the financial year, we will then, when the process demands of us to act and change the type of municipality, we will not do it mid-year, we will do it in the next financial year. And we will infect that. And that's all leadership requires. You need to be consistent, you need to be decisive, and that's what we are going to be providing to these municipalities. We are not acting as a big brother, we understand our responsibility, and we must actually ensure that we live to what the Constitution expects of us as the leadership in this House.
That was the reply by the MEC. Then you cannot create a dialogue. No, it has got rules as well. It has got rules. You were given a chance to respond, and now the MEC was closing whatever was supposed to be the debate in the interpellation. So you cannot come back. If you come back, it means the MEC will come back, and then it means it will be unending. Thank you. Honourable members, we proceed to questions for oral reply. According to Rule 55 to 57, the Secretary shall read question 1.
Honorable Kloot asks Honorable MEC responsible for Cochrane Dadidugan the following question. In view of the ongoing water interruptions and resulting lack thereof in Diverstorp in the Mangau Metro Municipality, 1, what are the causes of the mentioned interruptions? 2, whether any measures are currently being implemented to address the lack of water? to residents? If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details?
The Honorable MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable MEC Tukwana, may respond to question 1.
Yeah. The city, this town owes Bloemwater almost about 270 million rands. And this debt keeps on increasing mainly because of water losses and the incapacity thereof to raise sufficient revenue to service the debt. And some of the businesses owe the city or the town have also no capacity to pay, and they have given reasons like the impact of COVID. So we will also look into this matter, but the most important thing is we're looking at the review of Bloemwater Service Level Agreement. We need to deal with the water leakages and also deal with the repair of all these areas where we have detected such water leakages, and working with the municipality and the National Treasury, and then implementation of the prepaid water meters aimed at reducing water depth and to monitor wastage by indigent customers. We need also to make sure that those who can pay make such arrangements, and then with Bloemwater, as well as the municipality to take formal arrangements with Bloemwater. And then the collection of debts from defaulting consumers must actually be done so that we are able to meet our commitments to Bloemwater.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. The Secretary shall read question 2. Sorry, any Honorable Klute, any follow-up?
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, MEC. I think we're all aware of the problems that water councils are creating, and add to that municipalities that are being just naughty sometimes. But the main issue here is very technical issues. From the information I've gathered, it's that the booster pumps were removed in the Wesdorp by Bloemwater. But we want to know, has that been brought back? Are they implemented again, or what's the situation regarding the booster pumps? Also, there should be a telemetric system between the Wesdorp and Welbedag Dam. We want to know whether those are operational as well. So these are technical issues. Can you give us answers on those technical issues, please?
Honorable MEC.
I'm not a technical person, and surely I will not stand here and provide this, the answer to this. I would follow up and get the answer for the honorable member, as it is a follow-up question that I have no clue about in terms of the technical issue that he's asking.
Honorable Klute, maybe we can advise that be done in writing for response. In that case, then the technical people in the department would respond. Thank you. The Secretary shall read question 2.
The Honorable Member Klute asked the following question to Honorable Mahasa from the Department of Sports, Culture and Recreation. In view of the department's effort to change the name of Brandfort to Winnie Mandela Town to date, what amount has been spent by the provincial government on the mentioned name change?
Honorable MEC Mahasa.
No, thank you, Honorable Speaker. We did respond to this question in writing, but nonetheless, I will also respond orally. The responsibility of the change of name of towns, it lies with the South African National Geographical Name Change, which is the national department. Our responsibility as the department is to facilitate the public hearings and participation, and also to advertise in different newspapers for that, we spend about 130,000. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Klute, any follow-up question? None, thank you. The Secretary shall read question 3.
Honorable Jungelsons asks MEC responsible for Coctan Dadidugan the following question. Whether the Tlabi municipality has purchased any properties during the past 2 financial years up to the current date for which information is available. If so, 1, which respective properties were purchased per address and farm names and number? 2, from whom were the respective properties purchased? 3, what was the cost to the municipality of each respective property purchase? 4, what was the date of transfer of each of the respective properties purchased? 5, what is the intended benefit and or use of each of these respective properties purchased for the municipality? 6, whether independent valuation were done regarding each respective property. If not, why not? If so, A, what are the relevant valuations in each case? B, by whom were the respective valuations done? 7, whether the relevant internal legal processes were followed in respective of each purchase. If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? 8, whether any money has been paid for the properties that are yet to be registered. If so, please answer questions 1 to 7 above for each such property.
The Honorable MEC for Cocta, Honorable Dugwana, may respond to question 3.
Honorable Speaker, this question that was asked, we had provided the information, it's the detailed information, and that has been provided, and I think the Honorable Member Jacobson is aware, and we have agreed that this information should be provided to him, and it will be done. So it's a long list of all these things that he has asked.
Honorable Jungelsson is not here. Proceed, Honorable Peter.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yes, I do confirm. Honourable Jungelsson has just asked me to confirm that it be replied to in writing. It's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We move to motions according to Rule 161 to 63. Now we proceed. The Secretary shall read the motion.
That leave be granted for the tabling of the Adjustment Appropriation Bill number 4 of 2021.
The Honorable MEC for Finance, Honorable Brown.
Speaker, I move.
Any discussion, Honorable Members? Any objection? Leave granted. The Honorable MEC may table the Adjustment Appropriation Bill. The Secretary shall read the bill for the first time.
Adjustment Appropriation Bill number 4 of 2021.
And the Honorable MEC may present an introductory speech on the bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Our Premier of this province, Masisi Ntombela, members of the Executive Council, members of the Free State Provincial Legislature, executive mayors and councillors, Director General and HODs, chief executive officers and leaders of public and private institutions, municipal managers, leaders of business, industry, civil society, special guests in the House, in the gallery, and on all virtual platforms, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, Dumelang. Goeiemorgen, Molweni, Sanibonani. Madam Speaker, warm greetings to all, and I thank you for this opportunity given to me to present the 21-22 adjustment budget. Today I table this provincial adjustment budget during a period of 16 days of activism dedicated primarily on generating an increased awareness on the negative impact of gender-based violence on women and children. The 16 days of activism campaign for no violence against women and children is an international United Nations endorsed initiative and campaign that takes place annually from the 25th of November, International Day of No Violence Against Women, to the 10th of December, International Human Rights Day. Honourable Speaker, this provincial adjustment budget is tabled exactly 25 days after the recent local government elections, held on the 1st of November 2021. And I'd like to wish and congratulate all newly elected councils within the Free State and Free State province and country at large. We remain hopeful that the provincial adjustment budget will bring the much sought support to our municipalities in their plight to build better communities through the different deliverables which are to be implemented in the respective local municipalities and through these budgets of the different provincial departments. Honourable members, the scourge of COVID-19 has contributed to an unprecedented number of job losses and has widened equality gap between the haves and the have-nots. Our recovery out of this economic meltdown will require us to practice the most stringent cost containment measures and tight fiscal spending patterns. It requires us to prioritize and to meticulously align our funding to apex priorities as outlined by the 6th administration, with special emphasis on the economy, on jobs, and on infrastructure. We must create conditions which are conducive to build the Free State we want during these difficult periods, which is indeed a test of our resilience and character as the leadership collective. We wish to welcome the recovery rate of COVID-19 in our province, as well as the impressive outcomes of the COVID-19 vaccination outreach program by the Department of Health in our province under the leadership of MEC for Health, MEC Monseng Tsu, her department, and the leadership collective. Indeed, it deserves a vivacious round of applause. Thank you, Premier and MEC. As I present this budget, Honourable Speaker, I'd like to reaffirm that as the executive of this province, we remain resolute and steadfast. We remain resilient in the face of these harsh and unforgiving economic conditions. The well-being of our people of the Free State remains a driving force, and we shall therefore overcome to see these conditions. With that said, Madam Speaker, Honourable Premier, we are delighted to hear of the positive developments related to the prospecting of natural gas and helium in Virginia. We trust that this investment made by Renogen will have positive spin-offs for the district of Machabeng and the province as a whole, Honourable MEC Mohali. We are also very excited to hear that the town of Boshoff is set to host 6 of the 25 new solar power farms in the country. These are really exciting developments, Honourable Premier, and we hope that they will come to fruition and serve as an impetus to our provincial economy. Going into the economic outlook, and I'd like to start with the global and national economic outlook, ladies and gentlemen. Honourable Speaker, through you, it is required of me to briefly provide a synopsis of the impact that COVID and this pandemic has had on our economy. The pandemic has had a detrimental effect on the global economy over the past year and even the current year. The world economy contracted by 3.5% in 2020, following growth of 3.2% and 2.5% in 2018 and 2019, respectively. According to the World Bank, following the last year's gloomy economy, the global economy is projected to grow by a significant 5.6% in 2021 and 4.9% in 2022. It's the strongest post-recession pace in 80 years. This recovery, however, uneven and largely affects sharp rebounds in some major economies. In many emerging market and developing economies, and I'm going to paraphrase it as EMDEs, The outlook is expected to remain below pre-pandemic levels, considering the hesitancy to vaccinate, which will continue to weigh negatively on our economic activity. The global outlook remains subject to significant downside risks, including the possibility of additional COVID-19 waves and financial stress amid high EMDE debt levels. Honourable Speaker, our beloved South Africa was not immune to the economic effects of this pandemic. Instead, COVID-19 added to the woes of an already ailing South African economy, which had registered a mere 0.5% average growth 2 years prior to the pandemic. The national economy declined by a weighty 6.4% in 2020. Following the sharp recession in 2020, the South African economy is forecasted to grow by 5.1% in their recent projections according to the National Treasury, and by 2.1% in 2022 and 1.5% in 2023, with recovery benefiting from gradual relaxation of the COVID-19 restrictions and, of course, stronger commodity prices. On our province, Honourable Speaker, if I can provide the review and outlook, Honourable Members, our provincial economy remains heavily strained and battered. Growing the provincial economy remains one of the most pressing challenges faced by this province, by all of us. And part of the solution to some of these challenges, such as poverty and unemployment, the Free State economy has been in a recession since 2018, averaging negative 2.7% in the past 3 years. The pandemic exacerbated the situation. The provincial economy contracted by a staggering negative 7.4% in 2020. All sectors declined with the exception of agriculture. The biggest contractions were construction at negative 20.3%, transport at negative 15.2%, mining at negative 12.6%. That's the primary and the secondary sectors of our economy. We project that the provincial economy will grow by 4.7% in 22 and average just 2.0% over the medium-term expenditure framework. Honourable Premier, you are passionate about how we have to effect the change in this sphere. Job loss is the most severe and immediate impact of COVID-19 crisis. Honourable Speaker, approximately 40,000 jobs were lost last year in the province, 40,000. At the end of 2020, the unemployment rate was estimated at 33.4%, which is the third highest in the country, behind Gauteng and Eastern Cape with 34.1% and 47.9% respectively. We've moved up the value chain, but it doesn't mean that the problems are completely solved. The latest data shows that the official unemployment rate in the Free State increased to 36.5% in the second quarter of 2021, which is 0.9% higher than the 35.6% recorded in the first quarter. On policy implications, and this is the work that us as the legislature and as the executive need to do. Honourable members, there is a need for long-term robust growth within the province. And our aim and discussions in our forums, discussions in EXCO, discussions in our clusters, our aim is to implore new innovative ways to partner with private sector, non-profit organizations and communities in order to create jobs and reduce unemployment. For this to happen, we will be required to support local business innovations and accelerate local procurement. Infrastructure remains one of the critical elements in boosting local economic growth. As a result, a concerted effort has already been taken to accelerate infrastructure delivery to reap the maximum benefits of our province. MEC Ngangisa, agriculture still shows potential for growth in the province. Therefore, it is critical to direct more investment to this sector so as to stimulate growth and support to emerging and young farmers. Focus investment that targets promotion on agro-processing, agri-parks, and export of agricultural products that should and must be promoted. On audit outcomes of 2021, Honourable Members, I'm delighted by the recognition, Honourable Premier, that was given to us by our Auditor General in citing the year-on-year progress on the annual financial statements for the province. Thank you to the collective for your hard work. Speaker, Honourable Premier and MECs, thank you. Although the overall audit outcomes for 2021 financial year remained the same from 2019 to 2020, there was an improvement of 29% in the number of disclaimer qualification findings and a total number of non-compliance with laws and regulations by departments and entities that improved by 5% during the 2021 financial year. One entity received a clean audit, congratulations, in the 2021 financial year, and no department in this province received a disclaimer audit opinion during the 2021 financial year. Thank you, MECs. All PFMA institutions, executive authorities, accounting officers, chief executive officers and chief financial officers of departments and entities signed a pledge on the 11th of November 2021 to enhance the quality of service delivery, good governance and fiscal and financial management to further promote the improvement of our audit outcomes in the province. That was led by Honourable Premier. Honourable Members, Provincial Treasury facilitated an anti-corruption session on the 17th of November this year during the week identified by ACFE as the International Anti-Fraud Awareness Week. The objective of the session was mainly to strengthen the preventative and detective measures and implementing corrective measures and consequence management to deter fraud and corruption. The province is aligning implementation programs and to ensure that the objective of national anti-corruption strategy is realized. On local government elections have just been successfully concluded. We've had intense discussion about it and again bearing witness to our country's robust and beautiful democracy. As we would like to congratulate new and incoming municipal councillors, our key message to mayors and councillors is to be hands-on. Hands-on on oversight, hands-on compliance and governance, and to transform the financial and service delivery quadrants at that sphere. MEC Dukwana, welcome to our executive, and the functionality of our municipal public accounts committees and the disciplinary boards must receive the highest priority. Municipal councils must make resolute decisions to address and reduce unauthorized irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, improve audit outcomes and render effective services. It's important to realize that in order for our municipalities to remain financially viable, they must also have funded budgets or have funding plans. Honourable Speaker, as municipalities are in the middle of audits, our Provincial Treasury's team, in partnership with COCTA, is giving hands-on support to our municipalities during this audit process, with the express aim to assist municipalities to improve their audit outcomes. We are acutely aware of the debt owed by municipalities to bulk service providers such as Eskom and the water boards. Provincial COCTA and Treasury is playing a key role as part of the Intergovernmental Steering Committee to resolve these challenges. Likewise, we are assisting municipalities to improve their collection rates. On the mid-year expenditure review for the 2021-22 financial year on provincial expenditure, and I'm coming to the budgetary part of today's session. Honourable Speaker, allow me to focus on the provincial mid-year performance of revenue and expenditure. Our initial provincial fiscal framework, as tabled on the 9th of March 2021, amounted to 38.655 billion. From this, we spent an amount of 29.055 billion related to provincial equitable share, whilst 8.459 billion and 1.142 billion related to the conditional grants and provincial revenue, respectively. We allocated 38.625 billion to all provincial departments, Honourable Speaker, and provincial legislature to provide for provincial and national priorities, including health and education, which accounted for 71.5% of our total fiscal envelope. At the end of the second year of the current financial year, we had spent 19.059 billion, or 49.3% of our total fiscal purse. This is slightly below the linear norm of 50%. Honourable Speaker, we continue working with all departments as Treasury to ensure that all allocated funds, especially conditional grants, are spent as planned within that current financial year. Ours is to ensure that we derive value for money spent, and we continue igniting provincial economy through government spending. We also continue to appreciate and acknowledge the role of our private partners in this regard. On own revenue, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance, in tabling his medium-term budget policy statement, reflected on the positive developments with regards to tax allocations. Tax collections have exceeded expectations in the short term, and thus revenue for 21-22 is now estimated to reach 1.5 trillion as compared to the 1.4 trillion tabled in February 2021. At a provincial level, we have managed to surpass the norm. At the end of October 21, our revenue collection totaled 681.609 million, or 59.7% of the original target. The amount collected includes a payment of 61 million received from the Lesotho government for healthcare service provided. Thanks, MEC. Madam Speaker, the capacity of the province to collect own revenue has been severely impacted by the subdued economic growth as well as the advent of the pandemic. As a result, we had to reassess the estimated provincial revenue projections for the current financial year emanating from deliberations with all affected departments in the Free State and the Free State Gambling, Tourism and Liquor Authority. We decided to revise the estimated revenue downward by 21.693 million. For obvious reasons, this is one of the sectors which was most affected by the much needed COVID-19 restrictions. Our total revenue estimate for the current year is thus adjusted downward from 1.4142 billion to 1.120 billion, which represents a reduction of 1.9% as compared to a decline of the 9.8% implemented in the 2021 financial year. Honourable Premier, I must mention the recurring effects of this pandemic resulted in slow recovery in the gambling and the hospitality industries. Furthermore, outdoor activities were limited, which equally reduced the number of tourists, even in our resorts, museums and cultural centres. I must also reiterate that as a province, we will continue to resolve to enhance our revenue collection through identification of new revenue sources and implementation of systems such as online bookings for facilities. Madam Speaker, various departments have outlined their respective plans and strategies on how they intend to enhance own revenue collection over the medium-term expenditure framework period ahead. The implementation of these plans will be closely monitored and reported to the relevant forums in the year ahead. On cost containment measures and budget process reforms, Honourable Speaker, we emphasise that as a province we are still in a tight fiscal space, with very little reserves to address much of the in-year pressures, which is expected to continue over the 2022 MTF. Thus, for this adjustment budget, we potentially even over the MTF will continue to comply and implement both national treasury and our own province-specific cost containment measures. We will team up with our provincial departments to focus on identifying and dealing with inefficiencies in the system through spending reviews, zero-based budget approaches, and rechanneling any realized savings to high-impact priorities. Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, pressures on the provincial fiscus would persist, emphasising the urgent need to implement the proposed budget process reforms, which include the Minister's said zero-based budgeting process and the spending reviews, which means to direct funds towards key policy priorities and growth-enhancing programs. On compensation of employees, Honourable Speaker, our provincial wage bill, which accounts for 63% of the total 2021 budget, continues to pose further risks for the province. We'd like to bring it and keep it at a cap of 60%. Furthermore, the recent public service wage agreement, which breached the budget ceiling for compensation of employees, further aggravates the fiscus position and crowds out key service delivery priorities. The aforementioned 2021 wage agreement includes a once-off non-pensionable cash gratuity of between 1,220 rands to 1,695 rands for officials at level 1 to level 12 and is implementable from the 1st of April 2021 to the 31st of March 2022. The commitment was not provided for the 2021 budget as a result of budget cuts implemented across provinces. However, National Treasury has allocated an amount of 921 million to the province to cater for the costs of the once-off cash gratuities. I will reflect on these allocations later when we deal with the in-year adjustment. Honourable Speaker, we have urged all departments to review the respective organisational structures and to conduct skills audits with a view to identify excess staff, eliminate obsolete and duplicated functions, transfer excess staff to other departments in need of such, and reskilling and allocating new functions to existing officials. Provincial Treasury, working with the Office of the Premier, will continue with management and activation of parcel functionality before appointments are implemented by respective departments. On infrastructure investment, Honourable Speaker, the Minister of Finance alluded to the fact that economic reconstruction and recovery plan identifies infrastructure development as a critical component of changing our economic fortunes. He further indicated that the infrastructure fund is an important intervention towards our strategic goal of ensuring that total investment in public infrastructure is nearly 30% of gross fixed capital formation by 2030 as envisioned by the National Development Plan. Madam Speaker, in the current financial year, the province is investing more than 4.4 billion on infrastructure projects. This allocation supports close to 425 projects implemented by various departments within the province. There is, however, a need to expedite implementation of these projects and concomitant spending of these allocated funds. Further to add, the Honourable Premier has set up a task team to work directly with the Presidential Infrastructure Task Team to drive these infrastructure projects for the province. On the adjustment budget for 2021-22, Honourable Speaker, the 21 adjustment budget is guided by Section 31 of the Public Finance Management Act, and it provides for the following. Number 1, allocation for earmarked funds from National. 2, for the 2021 financial year, approved conditional grant rollovers. 3, the appropriation of reprioritization of funds towards key provincial in-year budget pressures. As indicated earlier, this adjustment is set within a very constrained fiscal space. Our reserves are depleted and our provincial needs are far higher than the available fiscal purse. We have therefore resolved that this 2021 adjustment budget will continue to be guided by the following principles: identification of inefficiencies within departments and entities, and rechanneling of resources towards high-impact programs and priorities, scaling down on implementation of non-core items, promotion of trade-offs within and between provincial departments, reprioritization of budgets to fund key provincial priorities and pressures. Honourable Speaker, these are some of the tough decisions that we've had to implement. We are in the midst of a deteriorating resource, and we therefore have to derive more tangible service delivery outcomes from the limited resources that we have at our disposal. Honourable Premier, in September 2021, we spent 3 full days with all our provincial departments and entities during our Provincial Medium-Term Expenditure Committee called PM Tech hearings. The departments presented their respective challenges, fiscal, financial and non-financial. We interrogated and presented those challenges. We agreed on recovery plans. And we also looked at such internal reprioritization of baselines to address budget pressures. This adjustment is therefore the culmination of those fruitful discussions. The submitted in-year budget pressures totaled more than 4.8 billion, and we were mainly driven by the following: compensation of employees, municipal services, COVID-19 pressures, and the provision of statutory obligations for children, disabled, and elderly persons. In the absence of additional discretionary funds, we had to dig deep into the current baselines and to fund some of the key identified budget pressures. In doing so, Honourable Speaker, we've identified the total of 76.184 million from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation, the Office of the Premier and the Provincial Treasury. The funds are reprioritized based on intense spending analysis. Thus, an amount of 51.362 million was reprioritized from the Office of the Premier from the Provincial Bursary Program as a result of savings from the International Bursary Program, as some of those international students have concluded their studies. So we no longer pay their tuition, their flights, their stipends, their stay. So that savings of those kids who were abroad and have now concluded their studies, we utilized those savings and we took that out of the Office of the Premier's account, and of course moving it to more prioritized areas. The provincial government, and may I state this very clearly, the provincial government will continue to award bursaries to the top 100 matriculants in this province during the new financial year. But also let me state clearly that all students who are currently in the bursary program, both locally and internationally, those who are currently enrolled will continue to be funded for the duration of their studies. So the only change that the provincial government is making is that we're not taking any additional new intake to go abroad, but the rest of the program remains the same. An amount of 24.022 million comes from the Charles Mopedi Stadium project. I must, however, indicate that these two projects still have remaining budgets to cater for ongoing needs in the local context. So we've just taken out the capital where we saw that there was slow spending. It is reallocated in the new financial year, but at this point, with the work that's being done, it will continue. And my device had just switched off. So I might have to go on to, please indulge me, Honourable Speaker, let me find where I stopped last. No, don't worry, thank you. Okay, thank you, let's take that. Thank you very much. So we were at Charles Mopedi Stadium. So the two projects still have remaining budget to cater for ongoing needs in a local context. We will continue to monitor the spending patterns of all the funded programs, including the aforementioned projects, with the view to reprioritize funds towards other pressing priorities. Additional to the aforesaid amount, we reprioritized 42.097 million in June 2021 to address pressures brought by municipal service accounts. So those fundings are going to municipalities through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Honourable Speaker, in addition to the aforementioned reprioritization, we received earmarked funds to the tune of 1.530 billion from National Sphere of Government. In the subsequent paragraphs, I will briefly outline the allocation of both national and provincial funds. On the national adjusted allocations for 2021, Honourable Speaker, the aforesaid allocation from national government is allocated as follows. 921.983 million is added to the provincial equitable share for payment of non-pensionable cash gratuities to officials on salaries levels 1 to 12, part of the 2021 wage agreements from Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. 334.412 million is allocated through equitable share to the Department of Education MEC Tate for employment of educator assistants and general school assistants in public ordinary and public special schools. This is a continuation of the Presidential Employment Initiative Program. 19.403 million is added to the equitable share for the Department of Health MEC Monseng for the employment of staff nurses and assistant nurses to fulfill the responsibilities required by COVID-19 vaccination programs, COVID-19 wards and high care units. 12 million is allocated through the equitable share to social development MEC Kabate for employment of social worker graduates in the province. 20.176 million is allocated once again to the Department of Health MEC Monseng through the Human Resource and Training Grant for placement of medical interns. A further amount of 3.479 million is allocated to health through HIV, TB, malaria and community outreach to allow the province to directly procure mental health services. And a further 10.702 million added to the early childhood development grant to support workers employed by the various early childhood development centers across the province, MEC Kabate. Madam Speaker, a total amount of 208.426 million for conditional grants is also approved to be rolled over for the current financial year for the following departments. The Department of Health will receive a rollover of 120.311 million. Education receives a rollover of 17.258 million. Social Development receives a rollover of 37.336 million. Agriculture and Rural Development will receive a 6.339 million rollover, and Human Settlement is allocated a rollover of 27.182 million. We urge all departments that receive these rollovers to expedite spending of these funds as well as the implementation of the current projects and programs without further delays. Honourable Speaker, these proposed allocations of reprioritized funds are a result of thorough consultation and deliberations with the affected departments through FORWARD, the Forum of HODs, and of course recommended to EXCO for further approval. The total amount identified for reprioritization is 118.281 million. Added to this is an amount of 30 million that remained unallocated in March 2021 due to the advent of the Political Party Funding Act. We received legal advice on this unallocated amount, hence it forms part of the proposed allocations for the 2021 adjustment budget. Madam Speaker, the total provincial available budget for the allocation in the adjustment budget amounts to 148.281 million and is proposed to be allocated in the following in-year budget pressures. 30 million is allocated per section 116 subsection 2 of the Constitution to support the provincial legislature in fulfilling its mandate with regard to financial and administrative matters. 15 million is allocated to the Department of Destia for Enterprise Support Program and Industrial Parks. 10 million is allocated to the Department of Health as an additional support for COVID-19 response. 10 million is also allocated to the Department of Education to address budget pressures on learner-teacher support materials, and 83.281 million is received by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to address provincial budget pressures on municipal services. This amount includes the reprioritization of 42.090 million mentioned earlier in the speech. Honourable Speaker, I've indicated that the 2021 estimated revenue had to be adjusted downward by 21.693 million as a result of subdued economic outlook. However, this revenue has already been allocated to departments in March. Therefore, for us to remain a balanced fiscal framework, we have reduced the same amount of expenditure on the expenditure side of all departments. The reduction is to proportionate to the revenue collected to each department in March 2021. On the 22 medium-term expenditure framework, Honourable Speaker, the 22 MTF period is still going to be challenging, more challenging, in fact, from a fiscal perspective. Fiscal consolidation course will be maintained throughout the MTF period and is likely to be concluded in the 24-25 financial year when the primary fiscal balance is attained. Thus, the provincial fiscal framework remains under immense pressure. It is therefore an urgent need to firmly do more with less resources at our disposal. We need to ensure that we put Free State on a fiscal sustainable trajectory. This can be attained through ensuring that we are fiscally disciplined. Ultimate discipline is required. We allocate available funds to key provincial priorities. We implement spending reviews of our respective programs. We manage the wage bill effectively through reviews of organizational structures and audit of our available skills. Madam Speaker, Honourable Premier, we are, however, delighted to indicate that the review of the provincial equitable share formula on the health component has been concluded and thus informs the allocations for the 2022 MTF ahead. The review is aimed at improving interprovincial equity with regard to the equitable share allocation. Honourable Speaker, these adjustments to the provincial to the provincial equitable share formula resulted in an improved allocation to the province. However, Honourable Speaker, we have preliminary budget figures which may change and will therefore share the details with the House when we table the main budget next year. In conclusion, Honourable Speaker, I wish to extend my word of gratitude to our Honourable Premier Masifora Sisintombela for her unwavering support, guidance and leadership during these fiscally trying times. My sincere gratefulness and humbleness goes to my esteemed provincial executive colleagues for their support in putting together this 2021 adjustment budget. Your support and commitment keeps us motivated, and I really thank you for that. I would also like to extend my deepest appreciation to the members of the Provincial Legislature and members of the Finance Portfolio Committee for their support, continuous engagement, deliberations, and demand for accountability in the utilization of government resources. Thank you to all the accounting officers and the departments, the public entities, the chief financial officers, CEOs, and all officials for the respective roles in ensuring that we attain fiscal sustainability, good governance for the province. My sincere appreciation goes to my HOD, Massey Singh, and a dedicated team, Team Treasury, for the excellent work in putting together this budget. My dear family, I thank you for your continuous and unwavering support to our work that we do as a province. A sincere thank you goes to the organization that I belong to. Your political guidance keeps the ship on the right track. My heartfelt gratitude goes out to the people of this province for the opportunity and honor given to us as members of the Executive Council to implement government policies, priorities aimed at improving the well-being of our communities within the Free State. Honourable Speaker, I hereby table the 2021-22 adjustment budget together with the associated adjustment appropriation bill. With that, Honourable Speaker, I thank you. Kia leboa.
What does the Honourable MEC propose?
Honourable Speaker, that I need to just find my space here. That the bill be referred to the Committee on Public Accounts and Finance as well as the Budget and Oversight Committee.
Any discussions? Any objection? Approved. The bill stands referred to the Committee on Public Accounts and Finance as well as the Budget and Oversight. Thank you, Honourable MEC.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, we then move to the Speaker's debate according to Rule 74. We now proceed to the debate on 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. The 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children is an international awareness raising campaign. It takes place every year from 25th November to 10th December. Honourable members, I will call upon Honourable MEC Kabati to address the House for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Greetings to you, Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker, our Premier and members of the Executive, members of the Legislature, and all the guests in the House. Speaker, since 1998, the government has been running an awareness campaign of 16 days of activism on no violence against women and children. 23 years, Speaker, we've been doing an awareness. But despite that, despite the tense awareness campaigns, the gruesome killings of women, especially young women, is increasing. Therefore, Speaker, in 2021, the campaign will move beyond awareness, but will focus more on accountability and prevention. As the campaign of 16 days of activism matures in the country, it has evolved to include the protection of children, sex workers, illegal citizens, the LGBTQI community, and the people with disabilities. The campaign starts from the 25th November to the 10th of December, with a broader approach of 365 days of action to address the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Other key commemorative days observed during 16 days period are the World AIDS Day on the 1st of December, which will be led by the Department of Health, and the International Day for Persons with Disability on the 3rd of December, which will be led by the Office of the Premier. In reflecting on the intense gravity and scale of gender-based violence in the country, President Cyril Ramaphosa made this remark: violence against women has become more than a national crisis. He went further to say that violence perpetrated by men against women is the second pandemic that our country must confront it. And like COVID-19 pandemic, it can be overcome if we all can work together. Speaker, the theme for 2021, 16 days of activism, is the year of Charlotte Manyi Matleke, 16 days of activism, moving from awareness to accountability. To ensure that the 2021 theme does not become a rhetoric, the observance of 2021 16 days of activism will therefore not be event-based, but will take a programmatic approach which will ensure multi-stakeholder participation in order to implement the 6 pillars of the National Strategic Plan of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, with a concerted effort on Pillar 1, which is accountability, and Pillar 2, which is prevention. The Office of the Premier is mandated to coordinate and implement these 6 pillars of the NSP, which are the following. Pillar 1, accountability, coordination, and leadership will be coordinated and be led by the Office of the Premier. Pillar 2, prevention and rebuilding of social cohesion. The lead department will be the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture, and Recreation. And it will be aimed at encouraging men to talk and engage and stop bottling up until they burst. Pillar 3 will be justice, safety, and protection, which the lead department will be police, roads, and transport. Pillar 4 is response, care, support, and healing, which will be led by the Department of Social Development. Pillar 5 is the economic power. This year will be the lead department. Pillar 6 is research and information, which will be led by Treasury, because we also want to ensure that Treasury ensures adequate funding to the NSP 6 pillars on gender-based violence and femicide. Speaker, the Free State crime stats, as at the 30th of April, indicate that just in 4 months, we had 4,593 cases reported on gender-based violence and femicide. 3,973 were women, 620 were children. Tabon Police Station in Velkom being the highest on those days. Of the 4,593 cases, Speaker, only 466 were alcohol related. 4,033 cases of gender-based violence cases were inflicted by sober people. Speaker, the most horrific picture of gender-based violence is that of the 4,593 cases, 2,707 violations and killings of women happened in our homes. Only 183 happened at liquor outlets, shebeens, taverns, pubs and nightclubs. And we have noted, Speaker, with heavy hearts, that with the recent stats that came out in September, the numbers are increasing. Hence, the focus on accountability and prevention must be directed towards making our homes safe again. We note with appreciation the progress made at national level. Amongst others is the private sector, gender-based and violence fund, which was set up in 2020 and is currently implementing its objective. We also note that in September 2021, Cabinet endorsed the gazetting of the draft bill of the National Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Council for public comments. There is a National Gender-Based Violence Command Council toll-free number. The number is 0800-428428. I repeat the number and I hope people are taking it because it may help you. 0800-428428. At a provincial level, Speaker, we note the following strides. The Deputy Minister of Social Development is here in the province for full 8 days, doing monitoring on how effectively do we implement the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence Programs. On the 19th, we jointly hosted a pastor's wife dialogue with a view to empower them to become the voice of change in their fraternities. We are working closely with the men's sector to facilitate talks between fathers and sons under the theme, My Father, My Mirror. We have 5 shelters in the province that are working closely with the Department of Police, Roads and Transport through the police stations that we are having. We are funding 20 NPOs to render community prevention and advocacy programs against gender-based violence and femicide. On Tuesday the 30th, Premier will host a healing session where men perpetrators will talk to other men on what triggered an abusive behavior and what healed and rehabilitated them. Women who have been abused will also talk about their stories, talking to the men and indicating the pain that they are going through. Children growing in violent, abusive homes will also tell us their stories, the impact of violence in their lives. Minister of Social Development will be in the province on the 10th of December to close the program by playing oversight on gender-based violence and shelter, at a shelter in Velkom. She will also have a dialogue with the LGBTQI community. On the 13th of December and the 14th, the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry will be in the province, and within her programs, she will play oversight at 2 disability protective workshops to help them grow economically. We bow our heads, Speaker, to all the victims of gender-based violence and femicide who lost their lives to abusive partners, and men in general. May their
Honorable
souls
MEC, I'm
rest in
afraid
peace.
Your time has expired.
Thank you very much, Chair.
I will therefore call upon Honorable Klute to address the House for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Acting Speaker and Chair of Chairs. More than 9,500 people nationally, most of whom women and children, were raped between July and September this year. That's 7% more than the previous reporting period. And that begs the question, Are all the marches and debates and government programs and public statements enough? Why does the statistics say and show the contrary? And yes, the President is partially correct when he asserts men are the perpetrators and men should raise their sons to exhibit healthy, positive masculinity. We know that. But clearly, us knowing that is not enough. Just this week, a 67-year-old woman was murdered in a horrific robbery at a home in Bloemfontein, with her throat slit, her hands tied to her back, with some cash and a few bottles of whiskey being stolen. Stating the obvious over and over is not enough anymore. In this fight, we need leadership that does not fail to act, or at least act when we are supposed to. So I wish to remind this House, sins of omission are equally evil as the sins of commission. Those who keep silent are just as guilty than those who perpetrate. And maybe the ANC should also look into that mirror that the ANC spoke about, or the President spoke about, and ask why they, for heaven's sake, supported a mayoral candidate in Kannaland who is a sexual convicted offender, or convicted sexual offender. Only after the public outcry, the ANC is suddenly now reviewing its coalition partnership with Jeffrey Donson and his party. He repeatedly raped a 15-year-old girl during his term as Kannaland mayor in 2004. What message does that send to each and every victim of rape in our country? So, Chair, again, the sins of omissions are equally evil as the sins of commission. I thank you.
Honorable Klute, your time has expired. I will therefore call upon Honorable H. Smith to address the House for 7 minutes. Exercise patience, honorable members.
Good morning, everybody. I am to address the House on gender struggle and the role of men. Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, Chair of Chairs, Chief Whip, and Honourable members of this House. We are always talking about women and child abuse. We forget that in many instances we are also faced with challenges of men abuse. It's just not so obvious. Honourable Speaker, I am to speak on gender struggle and the role of men. Gender inequality is a problem in all cultures. It plays a role at work, churches, societies, and most of all at home. I'm now referring to the discrimination towards women regarding salaries, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and I can continue on and on. This leads many times to the abuse of women and children by men and by women in position, at work as well as at home. Many men change when their partners start earning more than them. It becomes an issue where they should be thankful. Men cannot always respond to a turnaround situation where they must stay at home when mama has to go to work. Times have changed drastically that women are now the favorite person to be employed. For many reasons, I will not go into that. Business directors are in many times the reason why violence against women are escalating as they employ women in a traditional male position, overlooking men who are actually in line for that position in that company. Men who are seen as the protector of a family becomes the victimizer of his family. The husband becomes frustrated and begins to feel insecure as the man of the house because the woman now brings home the bacon. Many times when the wife, girlfriend comes home late from work, men already knew, assisted by jealousy, that his partner were doing and not asking the reason for coming home late, so then instigating domestic violence. Madam Speaker, it is a pity that the men in today's times are still feeling that they are superior to women. It has been proven across the country, across the world, that women is just as capable as men, mentally, many times stronger. But we as men doesn't want to accept that. Men can probably pick up two bricks with one hand. Women only one. But they will find a way of carting those 2 bricks in the same manner, in the same time span as the man did. Unfortunately, it is sad that all of this goes hand in hand with stress, the alcohol devil, and drug abuse, and then the fact that men cannot accept gender equality. Men must be at all times the protector of his family, and such is his responsibility towards any other abuser when he so notices. He is to protect even those who fall outside his parental responsibilities. Many times, Honourable Madam Speaker or Chair of Chairs, many times we as men are aware of such women and child abuse. We will take them into the house and support them and give them a place to stay, but we will not speak up. Many times men are aware of next door abusive family member, colleague or work arriving with bruises at work. But as we so-called protector at home overlook to protect others, we need to speak out against such. It is unfortunately also true that when you report such abuse, the police turn their back and say, sorry, the person must come and report itself. Now I want to jump, because I see I'm running out of time. This trend of men abusing women and children do not start when they are grown up. They start with a parent at home. When the child kicks the dog, it is cruelty. Whether you kick the dog is different to kicking a woman, but it's still abuse. Mom and dad looks on and smile and think it's funny. When the boy beating his sister till she cries when she was annoying him, the parents just scold and say, no, don't do that. In town, the child falls on his back and screams, he wants a car. Mom and dad threatens but do not implement any punishment but buy the car. That is where woman and child abuse begins. A young boy gets molested at school and teased. He reports it to the principal, who does nothing but laugh and say it is just fun. This boy goes back and retaliates.
Honourable Smith,
Yes,
just
sir.
hold your horses. Honourable Msimanga.
I just want to check as to whether the honourable member is willing to take a question.
Honourable Smith, are you ready to take a question?
I first want to finish my speech if there's time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks very much. You may continue.
A young boy gets molested at school and teased. He reports it to the principal, who does nothing but laugh and say it's just fun. The boy goes back and retaliates. No discipline from anybody. We as the parents should guide our people, should guide our children, boy and girl, not to abuse. It doesn't matter what we refer to. Human is on top of the list. The wife and the child is on top of the list. But do we do our responsibilities correctly at home? Do we reprimand our child when he slaps his sister? Do we remind the sister not to slap the boy? Because there is where we come in. with women, child and men abuse. Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chair of Chairs. May God bless and protect this House.
Thanks very much.
In the name of Jesus.
Thanks,
Amen.
thanks, Honorable Smith. Let me call upon Honorable Nanyane to address the House for 8 minutes. Honorable Nanyane.
Acting Speaker, Honorable Premier, Member of the Legislature, Maloko a mokgatlo o moholo wa Economic Freedom Fighters, all people of the Free State, especially women and children, I extend my revolutionary greetings to you all. You know, Acting Speaker, at the beginning of the year, when the ANC announced that for them, Kisilemo, Salisika, Khosikgadi, Me Charlotte Mateke, I had a little faith in you that maybe hore mohlomong dintho di tlo loka for basadi. I strongly feel that this exercise we are doing here is part of the problem, because this debate are really coupled with actions and are just a tick on the box. Selemo le selemo re tla ka ntlong ena re tlo debate ka 16 days of activism against women and children abuse, Women's Day, Human Rights Day, impas Acting Speaker, ha ona phetoho maphelong a rona. Selemo le selemo re sebedisa mantswe a Ntate Thomas Sankara ha a ne a re, I quote, "Comrade, there is no true social revolution without the liberation of women. May my eyes never see and my feet never take me to a society where half of the people are held in silence. I hear the roar of women's silence. I sense the rumble of their stormy and feel a fury of their revolt. This parliament has, close quote, sorry. This parliament has a human's multi arrangement that is there and serves no purpose whatsoever. You would swear, Acting Speaker, it is only there to make the legislature as an institution feel as if they are trying something. Acting Speaker, the government of the leading party is failing the society. Women and children are raped, abducted and killed each and every single day. We have a minister of police who has no clue of what he is doing, but because of factional alignment, he's still a cabinet member. Not even once have we had an operation clean up against rapists and sexual offenders, and where the plethora of police and defense forces are deployed. The minister deployed soldiers to raid people's home, people who were only looking for food and schools closed for their children. Acting Speaker, COVID-19, it has also played a role on the rise of GBV. And the lockdown, however, necessarily created atmosphere of confinement which lead to anxiety. And this in a very dangerous combination in an already volatile environment. Speaker, violence against women and girls is really unacceptable. Violation is basic human rights. It is also widespread that ending it must be a global public health priority. South Africa is facing a situation in which survivors has been locked down with abusers, and they need economic security to free themselves from their abusers, all during a very tight job market and period of insecurity, said Wendy Isaac, LGBT researcher at Human Rights Watch. Acting Speaker, what is painful about activation such as 16 days activism is that the violence towards women and children somehow intensifies and grows, especially in our disadvantaged community. Acting Speaker, we need to stop this of tiptoe around the issue of land. The only dignity we can give our people is land. Women and mothers need to be able to provide and fend for themselves. These abusive men are entitled to women and children because they believe they are the providers, and as women, we need to be strong for the sake of our children. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Speaker.
Thanks very much, Honorable Nanyane. Let me call upon Honorable Lucima Pena to address the House for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of Chairs, for the opportunity. Greetings to our Premier, Honorable Sufuranto Mela. Greetings to the Executive of Free State in the Legislature. Greetings to members of the Legislature. Baahi ba Mangaung ke a le dumedisa ke le hlomphile. Orange World End Violence Against Women Now. United Declaration of UN on Violence on Women. The year of Charlotte Manye Maxeke, 16 days of activism, moving from awareness to accountability in South African context. A clarion call is made by United Nations to end all forms of abuse and violence against women. Through the world, through the theme, Orange World Ends Violence Against Women Now. The understanding of this call is that women suffer the same fate of violence, hunger, degradation, women trafficking, alcohol, and substance abuse, mostly, unfortunately, economic marginalization. Honorable Chair of Chairs, the upsurge in gender-based violence in our country has been
exacerbated by the continued COVID-19 pandemic through rising levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, as purported by the research which indicate that South Africa is one of the countries with a high level of inequality. Some of these inequality are inherited, unfortunately, from apartheid era through its draconian policies, which denied the poor access to basic services such as shelter, water, education, etc., etc. Let us also mourn millions of women who perished during this continued period of COVID-19 pandemic. Women died misplaced by wars through the world in Afghanistan, Iraq, Ethiopia, and others. May their soul rest in peace. Honorable Chair of Chairs, the atrocities against women are because of system patriarchy, which places women in kitchen and reduce her role to that of taking of children. The system is created to control and have power on women, both socially and economically. The male counterparts are in the system portrayed as a symbol of discipline in the family, and this is where gender-based violence is drawn from. This is my view, that this system should be gradually eroded as the world has moved to adopting democracy as a way of life. Honorable Chair of Chairs, the women in this country should stand up and at the same time men away, and which Charlotte Maxeke should up to control the male dominance during difficult times when women were banned from meaningful participation in societal decision-making structures. This is the first women to participate in the King's Court, the first women who attended and contributed to the first ANC conference in 1912 and elected as the first president of Bantu Women's League. Honorable Chair of Chairs, the philosophers have only interpreted the world various ways. The point, however, is to change the code, is to change it. Quote by Karl Marx in illustrating the importance of changing system to benefit the people. It is therefore imperative that women and the society should mobilize for the change of the system which directly perpetuate violence against women. It is time that faith-based community and youth movement act now to stop violence against women and children. Honorable Chair of Chairs, the judiciary known as judicial system. This is the system of court that adjudicates legal dispute, disagreement, and interprets, defends, and applies the law in the legal cases. Government is increasing access to corrective services, behavior, even changing the program to reduce the risk of future abusive women, interviewing earlier with the new behavior change programs for the people on bail or on remand, introducing new strategies to ensure people comply with apprehended domestic violence orders. Honorable Speaker, we should be activists against gender-based violence in our homes, community, work, and position to challenge the culture and practice that perpetuate gender inequality and consequence abuse of women and children at personal and society level. We should play our part in rejecting the reporting abuser, challenging the denounced cultural practice that perpetuate gender inequality, and be supportive to all material times to victims of gender-based violence. Seek personal help to change harmful behavior such as alcohol abuse, and continue to teach our children and youth to the values of gender equality in generation. Together, let us take action to support 16 days of activism, to non-violence against women
Honourable
and children
Member.
campaign.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Let me invite Honourable Peter Way to address the House for 8 minutes. Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair of Chairs. On 9 August 1956, more than 20,000 South African women of all races staged a march to the Union buildings in protest against the proposed amendments to the Urban Areas Act of 1950, commonly known as the PRAS laws. The march was led by Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, and Sophia Williams. These women were trailblazing females, and we as South Africans can be immensely proud that women in our country are continuing to be in the front line and in the forefront of taking control when necessary. Honourable Chair of Chairs, we are in a global pandemic. Women stand in the front lines of this COVID-19 crisis as healthcare workers, as caregivers, innovators, community organizers, mothers, wives, breadwinners. Globally, women represent 70% of the health and social sector workforce. And on average, women do 3 times as much unpaid care and domestic work as men. Honourable Chair of Chairs, not only does South Africa have a coronavirus pandemic, we have a secondary pandemic, the gender-based violence. When the South African government announced the lockdown in March 2020, the government's gender-based violence and femicide command center, a call center to support the victims of GBV, recorded more than 120,000 victims in the first 3 weeks. Prior to the pandemic, femicide in South Africa was already 5 times higher than the global average. And the daily cases of violence against women are increasing. It's not decreasing, it's increasing. 51% of women in South Africa say they've experienced gender-based violence. And 76% of men saying they've perpetrated gender-based violence at one stage in their lives. A similar study revealed that 1 in 5 women report that they have experienced violence at the hands of a partner. Honourable Chair of Chairs, what's the government doing to prevent gender-based violence and protect the vulnerable? President Ramaphosa said government have taken concrete actions to provide greater support and care to survivors of gender-based violence. The number of shelters and care centres by survivors were increased, and the capacity of our police to deal with crimes of gender-based violence were improved. Clearly, this is not a prevention strategy. On the 3rd of June 2021, the National Assembly passed the gender-based violence bills. It's the Criminal and Related Matters Amended Bill, the Domestic Violence Amended Bill, and the Criminal Law, which includes sexual offences and related matters amendment bill. Honourable Chair of Chairs, we do not need more policies. We need a government that cares. We need men in the society that puts up examples. The South African police services must prioritize complaints of gender-based violence. Frontline workers need to be trained thoroughly to identify cases of GBV. Civil society groups have already started mobilizing and finding ways to improve their services. Organizations like the Rape Crisis in Cape Town extended their 24-hour advice lines, which are provided via phone and WhatsApp. In a written reply by the Minister of Social Development, Minister Lindiwe Zulu, to a DA parliamentary question, revealed that the Western Cape is the only province that has established shelters for victims of GBV, following the provision of numerous facilities by the National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Honourable Chair of Chairs, so many of the civil society groups are finding it challenging to operate due to lack of funding. But, as I said before, what are men doing to combat gender-based violence? Let's look at the members of this August House. How many times have I had to call a male member on the right-hand side of the House to order for making sexist and defamatory remarks against our female members? How are you helping the society? What example are they setting for our children? During apartheid in the 70s and 80s, activist women thought they were fleeing to safety and finding shelter in ANC camps in bordering countries. Instead, some of the South African activist women who went into exile for opposing apartheid fell prey to the worst form of betrayal. They were raped.
Honourable Peter, can you please pause? Honourable MEC Mahasa, is that an order?
No, Chair. Sorry, Speaker. I just want to check if the honourable member is willing to take a question.
Okay, Honourable Peter, are you prepared to take a question? Yes.
No, definitely not from you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the offer,
Proceed,
though.
Honourable Member.
They were raped and abused by comrades who justified their actions that it's in the name of the greater cause. What example did they set? Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, was charged with rape in December 2005. In May 2006, the court dismissed the charges, agreeing that the sexual act was consensual. What example did he set? A high-ranking ANC official who was charged with raping his 8-year-old twin daughters has been reinstated by the party in Mpumalanga, hours after being released on bail. The man was greeted by ululating members of the ruling party outside the court. Honourable Madam Speaker, how can the ANC allow this? What example are they setting? When an ANC councillor in Johannesburg was arrested for allegedly raping a woman earlier this year, party leaders in the region said nobody should wear ANC regalia when attending the court to support him. Support him, Madam Speaker? What example is this setting? A former ANC councillor currently serving a jail sentence for rape in the Eastern Cape is receiving his monthly salary, including all his benefits. What example is this setting, Madam Speaker? Why only 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children? Why can't we live by example 365 days a year? To all the women out there, here's some advice from Maya Angelou, a poet, a memorist, and a civil rights activist. You may
Honourable Peter
encounter...
Wayne, your time has expired. Thank you very much. Honourable MEC Brown. You may address the House for 7 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, members of the Executive Council, members of the Free State Legislature, the House at large. Honourable Pitaway, we were sort of impressed by the history lesson that you provided, but the statistics of the province needed more research. The province does have shelters to support women, and I think it's we gotta be fair in our debates in terms of balancing the information and also the research. So I think the MEC Kabate will provide us with some information in that regard. But honourable members, as we mark the annual 16 days of activism against gender-based violence campaign, the Free State Provincial Government has held hands with survivors, activists, people from all walks of life to shine a light on the need for prevention and eradication of gender-based violence against women and children. So we've joined hands with these mentioned stakeholders because ending violence against women and children is everyone's business. It's not only the ANC's business. And today I'm going to be just outlining some of the systems that this ANC-led government is putting in place to ensure that we combat the gender-based violence pandemic. And we know that we start off with the statistics. South Africa has more than 2,700 women that have been murdered as a result of gender-based violence since 2000. We also know that the crime statistics released by the police minister shows that from the period of 1st of July to 30th of September revealed that 9,556 people were raped. Most of these victims were violated in their own homes by people that they knew and trusted. And this figure presents an increase of 634 cases, or 7.1 in comparison to the previous reporting period. I must agree, men also are victims of gender-based violence. 76% of suicides are men, according to statistics on the 19th of November. 40% of domestic abuse victims are men, and 1 in 3 persons who experience violence from intimate partners were male at 35.3%. So we need to understand where we are at in terms of the demographics of the country and how we deal with gender-based violence as a system. So to provide further studies, we found that 77% of women that are linked to gender-based violence are from Limpopo, 51% in Gauteng, 45% in Western Cape, 36% in KZN, and these women all receive some sort of form of gender-based violence. Men were the main perpetrators of this violence. For example, 76% of men in Gauteng, 48% in Limpopo, 41% in KZN, admitting to perpetrating gender-based violence. So as the South African government puts funds, resources in place, I can assure you that our Premier has got a gender-based violence team set up in every district of our province. Somebody that is central to marking and understanding the challenges of our province at every district. She's placed that in our office, and that then is reported with targets, budgets, and outcomes to her on a regular basis, as well as the National Department of Women. A further study shows that the selection of women in South Africa concluded 24.6% that have experienced physical assault from their current partners. Now, further action taken by this government outside of the resourcing, the national machinery to coordinate the campaign, but this is machinery that's set up not just for 16 days, but for 365 days in a year. And our government established 92 dedicated sexual offences courts since 2013, with a further 11 to be opened this financial year to improve conviction rates and provide comprehensive and appropriate support to the survivors of sexual offenders. In March 2020, Cabinet approved a national strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide. Cabinet also approved the establishment of the GBVF Interministerial Committee, which our Honourable Premier, the DG, and the task team reports on a provincial basis to that committee on the actions that this province is taking to combat GBV. We also mitigate abuse of women and children by strengthening leadership and accountability across all spheres of government and society. We've also strengthened the delivery capacity of the rollout and effective programs on a monthly basis. The Free State has the structure in the Office of the Premier, as I spoke about, and management of change and behavior and psychological services is provided by social development 365 days of the year. So, at a national level, National Assembly approved on Thursday, the 3rd of June 2021, they passed a gender-based violence bill. These three bills were called the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Bill, Domestic Violence Amendment Bill, Criminal Law with Sexual Offenders and Related Matters Amendment Bill. These are structures in society to deal with the injustices that's happening in our society, and an area where people can go up and really challenge some of these matters. So part of the biggest positivity with our bills is that we've now got a legislation regulating the National Register for sex offenders. So in our minutes that I have left, there are many places to get help. There's a national crisis helpline, Stop Gender-Based Violence helpline, People Opposed to Women Abuse, Family and Marriage Society of South Africa, National Network on Violence Against Women, Counseling and Support for Women, Social Security, Healthcare, so you have your Marie Stopes Clinic, Depression and Anxiety Group, AIDS Helpline, Legal Assistance, Legal Aid Boards, Lawyers for Human Rights, Campaign for Women and Men Who Support No Violence, Men as Partners Project, Sexual Harassment Education, South African Police Services, Suicide Crisis. In conclusion, what more can this ANC-led government do? But we have to build our systems and our communities and our people at home. So, Honourable Speaker, we agree with the women of this country that the state should impose no bail and no parole for perpetrators of rape and murder against women. Let us break the cycle. We must break the silence. We must act against abuse and never look away. Honourable Premier, and as your role as the Deputy President of the Women's League, Masisi Ntombela, the women of our country are calling for emergency measures to end this violence. Let's stand together. Malibongwa, let this ANC government and our beautiful constitution combat this pandemic together. Malibongwe, kia leboha.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Letuka, you may address the House for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable members in this House, the visitors who are here today, I greet you all. Speaker, numerous and various speakers, fora and organizations have spoken and are continuing to speak on this scourge and pandemic called GBV, gender-based violence. It seems we as a country, we are angry because all these activities, heinous activities, there is no any other way of describing them as the products of anger. Because there is no any other way that a man can butcher a woman and even go further to cut the body in pieces. In the face of so many efforts that have been made to meaningfully trying to get rid of this scourge, we seem not to be making much progress. But I would like us to look at this issue from two angles. There are two ways that we can look at it: how to prevent it or how to control it. First of all, the developmental phase of human beings, of our children. Second, the environment in which we as human beings operate. There is no child, no human being who comes onto this earth without going via the family. That's where they start. All of us come from there. It is the family, therefore, that has got the initial responsibility to make sure that these children grow up having values of life, fundamental values of life. And some of you will remember and recall that according to our way of life, every parent had a responsibility towards children of a village. Didn't matter whether they were your biological children or not. You had the responsibility to look after those children. That contributed a lot. The second phase of development is the school, where the child spends the greater part of his or her life. But look at our schools today. Teachers are accused of abusing the very children that they're supposed to be looking after. Are our schools now safe? We've got to go back and reintroduce our own values and allow these institutions to play their role. Then we can look also at what happens with these perpetrators. Is our judiciary up to speed? Are our police doing their jobs? What happens when people commit these heinous crimes? They get supported when they go to the courts, and that is not right. So it's a great pity. One would be speaking quite a lot on this because it is very close to some of our hearts. But unfortunately, because of time, I will have to stop at that. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Lituka. Honorable MEC Kabate, you may address the House for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member Speaker. Speaker, I'm disappointed in the honourable members that are politicizing gender-based violence and femicide, because it knows no color, it knows no status, it knows no political affiliation. I never thought that we would politicize the pain of the nation. But because some members have decided to politicize the pain of women and children of the nation of South Africa, let me respond to them as such. Honourable Member Klute, Honourable Member Klute, before you could talk about ANC candidates, please tell your elders who have not yet confessed their sins on killing and raping women and children that they must go and confess. You must go and read the book, The Madonna of Excelsior, to understand what your elders did. And until up to now, they have not yet confessed. There are more than 300 apartheid-era political killings cases that are still unresolved because they have not yet confessed. Go and tell them to confess. Honourable Member Nanyani, yes, year in, year out, we will talk about gender-based violence and femicide until we win over it. Until today, You still go to church. You are still told about Abraham, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and the rest. And the world is still being challenged by social behavioral matters and atrocities that include killing of women and children. Why don't you stop going to the church? We will never ever stop talking about gender-based violence and femicide. We will preach about it until we win over the pandemic. We will continue to advocate for healthy family relations until we attain that. Honorable Member Peter Way, you know, whilst I was marveling myself about how well you spoke on the 1956 9 August March and the women who were leading it, whilst you spoke so well on the stats on gender-based violence in the country. Just when I thought that, for the first time I hear this honorable member talking so positive things, there you go, you digress. We have shelters in the Free State. We have Tutuzela centers in the Free State. We have safe houses in the Free State. Where are you living? Where are you living? Go to Cape Town then. Go to Cape Town then. Go and live there. We have them. And you have been doing an oversight on some of them. You've been going there. What do you call a member who is lying in the house, Batung? Is that member still honorable? No, man, that's dishonorable to come here and talk lies.
Order, honorable member.
No, but that is dishonorable to talk lies in this house.
Honorable Peter Way, don't do that.
Honorable members of the ANC, thank you very much for your positive inputs. Thank you very much, Honorable Member GADIJA, for educating these other members of other parties about the achievements that we have attained despite the challenges that we are still having. And thank you, Untitled Chapter, for indicating that this is not a political matter, but it's about building better family values in order for us to be able to win over gender-based violence and femicide. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Indeed, such a sensitive matter should not be used for political scoring. It is a very sensitive matter in our society that needs all of us sitting here to be able to have inputs on this podium and advices and challenge our government to be able to do better instead of using it for political scoring. Let us treat it with the sensitivity it deserves. Thank you, honorable members. The debate on 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children brings us to the end of the business of the House today. The House shall adjourn now and until further notice. Thank you so much.
Push up. Okay. Get the house over, get the high.
that one, and you just need to put me out, that's all. So we're going to have a conversation, it's not going to be a one-on-one dialogue.
And 2022 financial year. MEC GADIJA Brown gave details of the financial projections of the different departments and troubled municipalities. Right now she is joining me along with the HOD for a few questions just to unpack her budget speech. Greetings to you both, ladies.
Thank you.
I trust that you-
I see there's a camera too.
Yes.
Greetings.
Yes. So I'm going to jump right into the question, and the first one is that in August, the Northwest held a webinar on the use of consultants in municipalities as a measure to improve the financial posture and or health of the municipalities. So now, since we know that the Northwest municipalities has challenges that are similar to the municipalities here in the Free State, are you looking into a similar or other measures to help resolve the issues in the municipalities soon rather than later, or to at least get the process of changing for the better in motion?
All right. I think let me allow the HOD to just give a highlight from an administrative perspective, and I'll come in. Would that be good?
No problem at all.
Thank you, HOD.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable MEC, and greetings to you and your listeners. Thank you for the question. You're quite correct. Free State as a province, we're not high in terms of the expenditure on the consultants. We are very careful on how we spend because we've got a lot of challenges with regard to many other service delivery matters. But why we are not so high is because we're also looking into when we use consultants, then there has to be value for money. We have to see audit outcomes improving, and we have to monitor what those consultants are doing. Over and above that, the consultants, when they get to the municipalities, they have to find documents that they can work with, and there has to be competent people that are able to receive whatever skill that they are bringing on the table. And because of all those analysis that we do, we don't just spend over consultants. We make sure that when we do get consultants, we will get value. And that is why we one of the lowest on the consultants. We rather use our own people, and when we use consultants, make sure that they transfer the skill to the employees of the municipalities there. But yes, audit outcomes, we as a province have got a lot that we need to work on. Thank you.
Just to add, let me first and foremost congratulate Northwest Provincial Treasury on the webinar, and I think ultimately, as the HOD outlined, we want to build capable people within municipalities to be able to deliver on financial statements. A largely part of our policy statement is developing a capable state, and with that said, the expression to utilize consultants is to support if there's a gap in the system. So largely what Free State municipalities have been doing in alignment with the Premier's coordination function and forum is to ensure that we appoint capable people in finance, in supply chain, as CFOs. And once we have that and can build that, because the worst thing is using a consultant, but you have a CFO, you have a budget manager, you have a finance manager, you have a SCM, you have a full component of finance, and you're still utilizing a consultant to assist you with your financial statements. That would be wasteful and fruitless expenditure. So part of the plan that Free State Treasury has is also to analyze the capacity between utilization of consultants and then the work in-house that municipalities should do. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. Our next question is, with the pandemic further affecting an already inflamed unemployment rate, what are other creative and permanent ways to create more employment opportunities other than assistant teacher opportunities, for example, that even though they secured a contractual job for a lot of youth, they still couldn't accommodate every single unemployed youth that perhaps wanted that job in particular or any other job?
Would you like me to take this one?
Please, Anisi,
thank
you.
Building an economy where we're trying to narrow the gap between rich and poor, align with the lower unemployment rates, requires robust and detailed policy alignment. And from a national perspective, we have that through the National Development Plan. We have that through various departments, the economic cluster at cabinet level. We have National Treasury talking about a reconstruction and redevelopment plan for the country, a stimulus package for the country. So there are many plans in that regard. But if we zone into the Free State province specifically, largely the challenges that we see is the geographic distance, which is part of some of the challenges. But I think with National assisting us with an amount of 1.5 billion to work on issues like conditional grants, rollovers, earmarked funds for equitable share. Those are all tools towards stimulating the economy, and not only in key sectors like education, health, employable sectors. We are asking Free Staters to employ. They must become business owners. They must become owners and they must control the economy. So I had a discussion in the ProPac committee meeting, which is the finance committee meeting this morning, where the GDP of the province is just about 395 billion. Part of government's contribution to that GDP is 40 billion in terms of our money flow as government. So 356 billion is still roaming around in other sectors of our economy. And part of our role as government is to build a conducive environment to stimulate the economy so that we can have jobs, so that we have young people come into the job environment. But it's not the only role of provincial government. It has to be the role of private sector. And what we want to further say to our society and our people of our province, public sector may have a certain demand. We demand goods, we demand items. When we tender, it's linked to a service or a requirement that's demanded by provincial government. The supply doesn't sit with us, it sits out there. Economic development must be able to create the supply. They must create systems, they must create a value chain analysis, they must create master plans, they need to create a strategy. We need to have a Free State growth and development strategy. All of that forms part of building a conducive and legislative environment for the economy to grow. We put policies in place, we do tariff settings and so on and so forth. But it's up to the Free State economy to really make this economy work and to ensure that employment doesn't only lie within teachers, within health workers, within government. It lies across the province. So my plea is for us to remove that mindset that only government's employing people. This presidential package is just part of stimulating the economy. It's part of getting more people to buy goods, to consume, to stimulate the GDP of our province. It's just one mechanism. Other than that, there's infrastructure, there's so many other mechanisms and means to stimulate the economy, but it must come as partners between private sector and government.
Thank you very much for the candid response. Our next question is, How do you plan on accelerating local procurement and support more local business innovations? And with regards to these businesses, have you already identified or started working with those businesses to help with the problem of unemployment?
All right. I think the HOD can start with policy directives in our department, and then I'll move on to the other part. HOD?
Thank you, MEC. And thank you for the question. I think the role of Treasury lies mainly in terms of us enforcing key legislations like a PFMA and MFMA. So, of which if the departments or our government institutions adhere to, together with the private sector also, who is a partner, especially when it comes to procurement. Like MEC have said, it's both public sector and it's also private sector. So the role of Treasury is for us to set up instructions together with National Treasury and circulars, which will allow competition and will allow everybody an easy entry into the mainstream of the economy, and also push the prices down so that we are able to stretch the rent and we are able to reach to more businesses. So yeah, that is the role of Treasury. And as where there are allegations of irregularities, we need to go there and assist in terms of interpreting the investigations, and sometimes even being requested by the leadership of those institutions to investigate on their behalf. And once we have investigated, we see that there is irregularities, we make meaningful recommendations which will take public interest into account and make sure that whatever corrective action is taken, it will be such that it will benefit other businesses and the public at large. But we mainly, and then there's also, I think that's more when MEC will talk as an economist there. We also study the patterns in terms of the economy. We're looking at how it grows and what is anticipated growth, which sectors are there, and then when MEC allocates the budget, that's what he looks at, and look at what the market would need, what the export would need, what Free Staters would need most, and when he allocates the budget, that is basically the basis. But I would rather leave the rest for her because she's quite good on those ones.
No, so the HOD is quite right. Treasury presents the paper to guide how the local economy is driven, right? So if you remember in 2017, it was the Minister of Finance who promulgated the new rules on PPPFA on set-asides, 30% set-asides for women, youth, people with disability, military veterans, people who are doing business from rural environments. And that was really to create a broad-based, inclusive economy, to ensure that those who have been kept out of the economy for a very, very long time, and with public procurement, that they'd have access to it. So Treasury is the setter of rules, setter of regulation, setter of legislation that provides this conducive environment together with economic development, trade and industry, and so on and so forth. So our role really, and part of our key role, is also guidelines in terms of ensuring that people who didn't know how to do business with government in the past has got some understanding by our Treasury colleagues. So we assist with CSD complaints and issues, we assist with tax support, we assist with there's systems called LOGIS and BAS that users need to be able to be affiliated with in order to do business with government. And also we set standards, like for example the threshold for quotations is now moved to 1 million instead of the 500,000, which allows for businesses to further go out there, borrow from banks, being able to have a much more long-term ability to do business with banks. And largely I think from a demand supply perspective, we find ourselves that with procurement of government, functionality and price is everything, is key. But barriers to entry is a huge deterrent for upcoming SMMEs, and those are some of the things that we do. So when we're talking about market related matters, Treasury can analyze what is the most demanded items by government. And that is part of an opportunity environment that we can bring to our SMMEs, to the province, to say our top most procured items are X. These are where you need to find yourself playing, and this is how you need to get into the game. So Treasury provides that support. We don't tell and dictate how it must be bought, what processes need to be followed. We provide a guide, the regulations, the legislation, and departments and accounting officers are responsible for the way everything else happens thereafter.
Okay, thank you very much. And for our second last question, is the community at large going to be made aware of fraudulent activities that happen in municipalities in future with regards to the Free State, and are the consequences of such actions going to be publicly implemented in the public eye?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the most recent arrest on one of the housing projects, somebody was just arrested and sentenced to 10 years for malfeasance and corruption. So I believe that largely they are, and you know, whether we like it or not, social media and the manner in which we communicate as human beings today doesn't necessarily need for a formal advert or a formal discussion or a formal placement on a website or whatever it is. Social media and the way we deal with matters today, definitely it would be made public. So I urge all of our departments, staff, those in the finance teams, please take caution, please be very prepared and take care in the manner in which you exercise your work. Governance is a critical issue in all societies today. Ethics and good governance and having correct boards and systems and audit teams and risk management teams in departments to be able to just double check your work and make sure that you're doing things correctly. It's almost like having a second person that's by your side standing so that you can be well protected in making sure that you exercise your work well. So my call to those in municipalities and in provincial government who are in the center of all this that happens, please take care and utilize your support functions around you to help you ensure that you execute your work in an ethical and in a compliant manner. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Jody. She's an auditor, so that's her strength. She'll be able to tell you more in that regard.
I think, MEC, you've quite covered it well. But over and above that, once the audit reports have been discussed and tabled with PROPEC, they become public documents, together with annual reports where you would find the reports of the MEC's accounting officers giving all the things that has happened, including irregularities which has happened, the action that was taken. So yeah, that kind of an information does become tabled, and when you go to the websites of the different departments, you can get that annual report and then get to read what AG says, what are the things that they have flagged, the audit committee that MEC talked about, what did they say as an independent body in terms of the reported irregularities, consequence management. So they do become public, and the public get to know about them. Thank you.
And for our last question, what are the key provincial priorities that will be reprioritized, and what are the non-core programs that you will be scaling down on in an effort to accommodate the 21-22 adjustment budget? I think you discussed that page 13 of
Yes, but largely, and I think I should also utilize this opportunity to set on record, we've taken 56 million, just a little bit more than that, out of the Premier's office, which is an apex program called the bursary program of the province. And I'm sure you've seen Youth League, COSAS, a lot of the youth organizations stand up, and they were very, very disturbed or irate by that fake letter. It was a fake letter. The Premier confirmed it was a fake letter. But I can assure you the funds that we are utilizing out of that budget is savings that we've made on international students who have now concluded their studies. So we don't have to pay for their stipends, their tertiary education, their accommodation, their travel, and so on and so forth. So we made that savings, and we've then reprioritized it to other areas, and I'll explain it to you now. But I can say on record that those who are currently incumbents of the current bursary program, we are continuing with the current bursary program. That is your top 100 bursaries, your discretionary bursaries, as well as the international bursaries, those who are currently in the system. In the 2022 financial year, we will still issue new top 100 matriculant bursaries. That is still going to continue. The only change that we are making as provincial government is international bursaries will remain. Only those who are in the system, we are not going to issue any new international bursaries. So young people of our province, we still believe education is a high priority to this province. It's an economic imperative for us to educate and ensure that our people, our young people of this province has got the necessary skill and the qualifications to drive this economy. So it is an apex project in our mind. We will not effect any changes in that regard to the bursary. So out of that 56 million and some 800,000 from Treasury and some 26 million from sports, arts and culture, the Charles Mopedi Stadium hasn't been completed in line with the time frame that we want, so we're saving some money there, moving that. We'll continue the project next year. We're taking those funds to Destia for local economic initiatives and industrial parks. So that's one of the ways that we want to try and stimulate the economy and this value chain that we were talking about. And then the other 40 odd million is going to public works and infrastructure, specifically for municipalities, so that we can pay municipal debts. You've seen the woes, Bloemfontein, the water boards and so on and so forth, having challenges with municipalities. We want to deal with that effectively. And then 10 million to health and 10 million to education respectively for some of their requirements, health more on the COVID issues and education on matric learner initiatives. So we found a way to really look at some of the areas where we could save and deliver it to areas that were areas that are of critical importance at this point of the financial year.
HOD, would you like to add a few words?
No, I'm covered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There is indeed an urgent need to firmly do more with less resources. But can the resources that are available be stretched out effectively to finally put Free State on a financially and consistently healthy trajectory, as per the MEC's words? We most certainly hope that the measures put in place will yield the expected results. MEC and HOD, thank you for joining me today. Otherwise, that is it from Free State Online. I'm Khaufeng Mohapi. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Ms. Mohapi. It was lovely being interviewed by you. And to Free State Online, all your listeners, viewers, thank you so much for always having us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy your day.
This is yours.